My name is Dae Han Wi, emergency physician at the Wangang University 3번 Hospital. In this section, I am going to introduce to you about the method of PATOS research and the study consortium of researchers involved in this study. I am going to begin by reiterating the objectives of the PATOS research. PATOS was designed to develop a standardized database of trauma patients in multiple Asian countries. PATOS has 5 objectives. First, PATOS will allow comparison of EMS and hospital trauma care system in Asian countries. Second, it will estimate and compare the incidence and outcome of trauma. Third, we aim to understand risk factor and epidemiology of trauma. That is, individual factor, EMS factor, and house factor, which affect the incidence and outcome of trauma. Fourth, we will evaluate systemic and structural incidents of trauma care and how they affect patient outcomes. And last but not least, we will calculate standardized mortality rate of trauma in Asia. Let me tell you about how this study is designed. PATOS has 2 main parts. First is baseline survey, and second is the main study. The baseline survey is a web-based cross-sectional study, and it is designed to survey hospitals and communities about their demographic characteristics and trauma-related service. The main study will be an international, multi-center, population-based, prospective cost study, and it aims to identify and analyze the risk factor and the outcomes of trauma using standardized variables. And all studies will be coordinated by the Seoul National University Hospital Laboratory of Emergency Medical Service. This coordination center will oversee setup of all study sites and data collections. To be enrolled in the PATOS research, we have some selection criteria here. First, we are collecting information about injured patients who were transported to the hospital by an ambulance. Here, the term injury follows the definition of WHO, which includes traffic collisions, drowning, poisoning, fall or burns, and violence such as assault, self-inflicted violence, or act of war. And we are collecting information about acute injury only, which means that the patient must have had an injury very recently, within a week. The primary outcome of our research is survival to hospital discharge. Along with survival, we will also collect individual EMS and hospital risk factor of countries of communities. Based on the distribution of risk factor, we will calculate the standardized mortality rate of trauma. For this research, we will collect a variety of variables about trauma. All variables belong to one of the 9 categories: demographic data, injury epidemiology, pre-hospital care, inter-hospital transfer, ED and hospital care, injury severity and outcome, rehabilitation, outcome and 6 and 12 months, death certificate. The extent to which variables are collected depend on the circumstances of each country and community. The degree of contribution to PATOS data, however, should be agreed upon between the study site and PATOS committee. All variables in the 9 categories are again divided into core, comprehensive, and optional dataset. It is mandatory for all study sites to collect the variables in the core dataset. Comprehensive variables are not compulsive, but it is for study site to collect this variable if it is feasible to collect them. Optional variables are again not compulsive, and study site can choose to collect them or not depending on their study objectives of study setting. You will have a chance to learn in detail about the complete list of variables in the next lecture. This is the case report form, which we can actually use to collect information about a patient. The variables are divided into the categories and they are also in chronological order for your convenience. Incomplete case report form is 12 pages, but here I am only showing you the first, second pages. When the patient is admitted to your hospital using ambulance and has acute injury, you will complete this case report form for the patient and transfer this information to the website, which we will see on next slide. Now, this is the PATOS website, where we can actually enter data that you collected in the previous case report form. Every site will be given an ID and password, and when we log in, you will see a window where you can enter the data. In that window, you can enter the variable in the case report form one by one. Now we will move on to the study consortium of the PATOS Research. This is where we are currently with trauma care. In Asia, we observe the high instance of severe trauma, but many countries and communities still have underdeveloped trauma care systems. And we know that several countries have hospital-based trauma database in place. There are still lack of EMS trauma database. And last but not least, there are only few studies done about EMS protocol in hospital. And this is why we have limited evidence about trauma care in hospital setting. Now the PATOS consortium was first developed in August 2013, when the first open meeting and steering committee meeting were held in Seoul, Korea. Like the Pan-Asia Resuscitation Outcome Study, the steering committee of PATOS is a volunteer-based group of trauma experts in Asia. The steering committees include the chair, co-chair, and secretary. And then there are PATOS Publication Committee, which include 5 experts in trauma research, each one being a charge of injury prevention, EMS, ED, hospital care, and system monitoring. And lastly, we have advice committee. And I'm going to tell you about the past meeting and activity of PATOS. So far, we have had 5 open meetings, 4 steering committee meeting, and 1 research meeting. And this fall in October 2015, we will have a PATOS consortium, PATOS symposium, and research workshop in Seoul. Going into details, the first open meeting and steering committee meeting was held in August 2013 in Seoul. And in this meeting extended representatives of 9 countries: Korea, Japan, Taiwan, China, US, Malaysia, Singapore, India, and Australia. 12 steering committee members were elected, and they discussed about the objective and working plan of PATOS research. The second open meeting and steering committee meeting was held in October of the same year in Japan. In this meeting, representatives of Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Qatar gave introduction about their trauma care system in the country. The third steering committee meeting was held in June 2014 in Seoul. In this meeting, introduction was given about trauma care system of China and Vietnam. And members discussed about the comparison study of Asia's trauma care system, which is the baseline survey which I introduced to you early in the lecture. In same month, we have a first PATOS Research workshop in Seoul. This is where we first discussed about the study variable and their definitions. In October 2014, first open meeting was held in Goa, India. In this meeting, the members went through the variables that they select in the Seoul workshop and discussed about the better feasibility of each variable. In March 2015, the post-steering committee meeting was held in Vietnam to review and decide the final core variables. And this is when they decide that the inclusion criteria of the study will be an acute injury patient transported by ambulance. And the fifth open meeting was held in April 2015 in China. In this meeting, all members were informed about the final variables list and the inclusion criteria. And we also heard from representatives of Mongolia about the country demographic and trauma care system. Last but not least, the PATOS Symposium and Research Workshop was to be held in July 2015, but it has been postponed to October for inevitable circumference in the hosting country. So far, 12 countries have agreed to participate in the study, including Korea, China, Japan, and more. This is a list of all countries and hospitals that have submitted application for the study. Please note that what you see on the slide is only a part of the list. As I had before, a total of 12 countries have expressed their decision to participate in the study. And some countries like China have one hospital participating in the study, while other countries like Malaysia have enrolled 40 hospitals into the study. Let's take Korea as an example here. The PATOS Research Group of Korea has nominated Dr. Kyung-jun Song as a country PI, and each participating hospital in Korea also have their hospital PI, and all PIs have regular meetings together to decide compliance variable and discuss other administrative issues. So that was the end of my introduction about the method and study conception of PATOS research. Thank you for listening.